everyone, and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this live stream event. My name is Alexia, and I am the project and event manager of the Microsoft Reactor Toronto. I will be sharing session resources with you in the chat. But before we begin, I'd like to quickly review two items, our code of conduct and event guidelines. First, please take a moment to review our code of conduct. Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. We encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. And secondly, our event guidelines. This session is being recorded and will be available on demand through the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel in about 24 to 48 hours. I will be sharing the link in the chat for our channel. And if you've not been on a live stream through YouTube before, please note that you must create an account on YouTube in order to access and or interact in the chat. You can set that up now. And if you're unable to use the chat but have questions, feel free to reach out to us through social media or on Meetup. Which brings us to today's session. I'm going to bring in our speakers for the day. Hello.
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 Good day. Thank you, Alexia.
It's great to have you again. Thanks for being here.
Oh, we love to be here. Reactor's awesome. I wish more Microsoft folks knew about it, right? They would take advantage of it. It's absolutely amazing. Well, and there's nothing better than a green honeycomb background for our show. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mr. Trent, how are you doing, sir?
Do you really want to know? I'm not sure.
You know what? I got to get better. I got to get better at just asking those questions because one day I'm going to get an answer.
Yeah, you will get an answer one of these days. No, I'm doing great. It's been a minute for me, and I think you've been traveling as well. I've been traveling vacation. You've been traveling work. I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of that. But
yeah.
I have been back in the office since Monday, trying to dig out, and everybody knows how that works, right? You're out for a couple weeks, enjoying yourself, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I have to go back. And then you see that onslaught of questions that people asked while you're gone and the things that they're like, oh, I'm going to wait till he gets back on Monday. So it's been extremely busy, right? Took the family, the entire family, that we've not done this for about 5 or 6 years, but took our entire family, kids, their spouses and grandkids and stuff like that to Panama City, Florida, and had an absolutely awesome time. So it was great.
Great. Yeah, the reward for taking time off is more work.
It is.
And getting behind, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've been traveling a combination of work. Well, I'm sorry. For our audio only listeners at the point, recorded September 21st, 2022. If we don't do that, Franklin will have a conniption, right?
Yeah.
So he needs something to mark his the actual audio. But no, everything is good. I've been traveling. I think I've accumulated, I don't know, 15,000, 20,000 miles over the last 3 weeks.
Oh, that's great.
Start
to get those points, start to build those points back up. On our trip, on our way down to Panama City, we spent the night in Atlanta, and I used my old points to get free overnight stay. So it was great.
Yeah, I'm actually, if I hit one more significant trip, I'm actually going to make diamond for Delta. How did that happen?
Wow.
Right. So I've traveled.
Substance on Earth, right?
Yeah, I've traveled more. I've traveled at least every other month this year. So,
that's
and I got some more travel booked for October, and now that I know November, late November, early December, and then obviously we're going to travel for the holidays, right?
Yeah,
we'll do that.
And this is all business or a little of both?
Both.
All right.
So I started with gallivanting. I was over in Europe. I was in London. This is before the Queen passed. It was during the same week that they chose a new prime minister, PM Truss. And so it was sort of crowded in London at the time. They had Parliament and all that other stuff blocked off because of that. And then I came home and had to go to an event in Nashville like 2 days after getting home over the Labor Day weekend. I was up in Nashville for a week. And then I came home, dropped suitcases, and was in Redmond all of last week. at an offsite and training. So
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit burned. The time difference stuff. I don't have my travel legs up under me just yet.
Yeah. Did you learn anything in that offsite?
I did. This was primarily around the finalization of the acquisition of Risk IQ.
Oh, awesome.
So the the company acquisition was final, but this was the finality of solidifying what the incubation would look like to bring them in. And so Risk IQ had two products or two offerings, and now they've been translated into what they're going to look like um, in in Microsoft. So one of them is called Microsoft Defender for Threat Intelligence. And then the other piece was their EASM portion of it. So two distinct and primary offerings by virtue of the acquisition. I'll tell you what though, the best two presentations were given by Ann Johnson.
Oh,
She,
that was awesome.
oh, she gave us huge insights. Can't anything, nothing we can talk about on the show.
Yeah.
But she gave a very thorough breakdown on how Microsoft operates from a security offering company. So the decision making on whether to partner with another security vendor, build it yourself, or acquire. So we always wonder, how do they choose these companies? Now I know, and it's actually thought through very well. And her Q&A session was awesome. Once again, there's nothing I can talk about. But you know what caught me by surprise was it wasn't mentioned, but the actual partnership with Tanium, right?
Oh, aha. Right. Yep.
Yeah. So she might have touched on it, but not really. Matter of fact, I know she didn't. No, she didn't. She did say it was going to be a big announcement, maybe two. And so the Tanium partnership was something that was when it was released. What yesterday, day before?
Yep.
I'm like, oh, okay.
So that's interesting. I don't know how many people are aware. There's a significant number of employees that work at Tanium that used to work at Microsoft, right? I know almost everyone over there on their solutions and support side. Most of them came from System Center Configuration Manager teams here at Microsoft. So that's kind of a huge thing, because when you think about it, I working in the field when I did, a couple years ago, run across Tanium being utilized mostly for client management, but then there were also the security aspects, right? Because since they are managing clients, they do look at a lot of those signals. So they're actually collecting a lot of valuable data. So the things that are coming, which for Microsoft Sentinel from Tanium, are going to be super awesome, because that's a lot of really good data to utilize for a security perspective.
So my first exposure to Tanium was 7 years ago.
Yep.
And they were still very much in startup mode, whatever. And it's interesting that when I go to their site and look at customers, it doesn't list one of their largest and earliest customer, which is Home Depot. It's not listed on here. I don't know why. I didn't directly lead that project, but I had to work with the engineers who were trying to get it deployed. So that was my first exposure to it. Now I wasn't at Microsoft at the time, so a lot of the people that are part of the Tanium team, I would have known anyway, right? Unless I knew them personally.
And we actually have them slotted, the Tanium folks, to come on. Was it October 5th, I think, for this show, Microsoft Security Insights show. So we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. And I think they're actually going to demo the solution for Microsoft Sentinel. So that's going to be cool.
Yes, so that's going to be cool. Maybe I can, finagle an NFR to put it in our, security insights lab so we can showcase it. But I'm looking at their stuff, and so they, they don't have any slouches as far as their customer base. And customer, when you go to a company site, they're not going to put dissatisfied customers on there, right? But these are not small customers that they have, right? This is not a trivial amount of seats for any of them. And they actually have some. Oh, I thought that was government. Yeah, they have some state and local government. So
Yeah.
and military. So very, very cool. I'm looking forward to having them. I didn't realize that their product set and footprint and offerings had expanded way beyond what I was working on when I was assisting over at HD. But it's good to see it, man. We had some back channel discussions on how fun that is to be at a good, excellent company, leave, start up, do the good work, get acquired, make a lot of cash, start over. Right. So I've done my share of startups, and obviously there were none world shaking, because otherwise I would not be working and doing something else. But no, I'm looking forward to having Tanium on next month. I want to hear about what's going on. I'm going to ask them a few questions that my team has already asked me to ask them, and we'll go with that. So
Yeah. So yeah, and it'd be interesting to discuss with them, because for those that aren't aware, Tanium or at least their client configuration or the client manager solution was kind of competitor with configuration manager or system center configuration manager, which is Microsoft Endpoint Manager now or whatever.
mhm.
So it'd be kind of an interesting discussion. And in fact, it's funny, when that was announced, almost immediately someone internal connected with me in Teams, like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, this is a good thing. This is awesome.
Well, the crazy part about it, once again, I'm trolling their site. Microsoft is not listed as a partner, and it may be premature, as a partner and or an advisory. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 distinct partner verticals. You could be a solution partner, confidently evaluate, purchase, and onboard Tanium solutions. Advisory partners integrate Tanium to your global IT estate. Technology, maybe it's up on the technology alliances. Let me see here.
Yeah.
And so I'm going. Yep, they're there. I was in the wrong thing. So it's there.
Yep. So it's interesting too, because I mentioned earlier that there's a good number of folks that work at TAN that have come from Microsoft, from the configuration manager space and things like that. So I actually, at a conference that I was at in, what was it, April or May this year. So I've actually kind of known about this integration since then, because we were having chats about it at that point, because there were some Tanium folks at that conference. So this has actually been in the works for a while. It's not not brand new. It's not like somebody woke up one day and said, hey, maybe we should do something here. Microsoft Sentinel is, in name and popularity and usage, it's really exploded over the past, I would say, 6 months, more so, but the past couple of years have been awesome.
Well, yes, and I'm happy for that. It affords us to apply our skill set and do the good work, but it's also a little bit of angst, because we're growing in such a pace that we're putting out product that a lot of times the correct support mechanisms or information mechanisms are not in place. Case in point,
Yep.
I got pulled into hey, we want to use SAP on Sentinel. I'm like, okay, short of the solution and the content hub and the direct connector, that was as deep as I could talk about it. I'm not a SAP or CRM or ERP type of person.
Yeah.
And so we eventually found some engineering to come in and talk about it. But here's the thing about it. When we're getting these solutions out, the connectivity to the solutions are not hard. It is use case validation and realization. And if you want to go technical, did anyone write any parsers that are of value to be able to do stuff? And did anybody evaluate use cases in regards to ingesting that data?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you ever set up SAP. We did it last week. Well, we being a stretch. I was looking over Ren's shoulder and Umesh, and like, dude, I haven't touched SUSE Linux. I didn't know SUSE Linux was set out. That is what SAP runs on. That's the distro. So you have to deploy it. If you deploy it in Azure, and we're going to have Ren on. We almost got the lab together to do a demo, but it is deploying containers. Everything with SAP in the cloud is deployed via API. There's no VMs and stuff you manually do. You have to deploy it. So it's sort of like they overlaid it with Terraform or HashiCorp, and you can see it just going through and doing it. And so we're trying to find use cases, and when we have a viable lab, we're going to get Ren back on and myself, and we're just going to show about it, because I'm starting to hear more about it. But my thing was, sure, I can get the connector to work, but I couldn't tell you what's used for data and what's not used for data. Right.
Well, and you mentioned something that's really kind of a pain point as well. Not just creating these things, it's maintaining these things. You create a parser today, someone on some team within Microsoft, or maybe it's a customer that submits a parser for whatever solution they want to connect to Microsoft Sentinel, those log files. 6 months from now, that data, that schema for that data might actually change, and that parser needs to be updated, but nobody knows. It's kind of like we talk about DevOps. Everybody just absolutely loves DevOps. DevOps is great. The CI/CD pipeline, but unless that pipeline is everything, all the code as part of that is being maintained, then you're going to have issue situations where that parser just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I've run into that. You've heard my gripes about, ZPA and a few others, and still no resolution about who owns it and who's doing what with it.
Well, the unfortunate thing is everything runs through our GitHub repository, right? But our customers are reluctant, I think, sometimes to report those things on the official Microsoft GitHub repository, because maybe there's a stigma where, this is the official Microsoft repository. Maybe I shouldn't, report this stuff here, but everybody absolutely should. That's what that is designed for, right? So,
well, they need to be encouraged to do it too, right?
Yeah.
So if you go into it, you can see a leaderboard about who's contributing the work, and I don't think it has enough pride factor to it to say, hey, I've contributed these many comments, I've done these updates, I've done these things, I've written to it. Not just the connector that was already previously written, but for anything new that's being submitted for content and for use. So, but that's a totally other thing. I've submitted my feedback to the engineering, like someone has to care and nurture this thing. If this is the method you're going to go to deploying these solutions, because you want to get away from the OEM and closed code repository and be more of an open source, you have to nurture open source, because it's best effort a lot of times. Excuse me. And when you rely on best effort or time available, you find yourself in a situation where the product is not being showcased in its best light because of splinter things around it. But anyway, enough on that. We're going to have I definitely want to have a topic, if it's not this year, to talk about how do you maintain a custom scene with open source mentality, right? Or a company own a closed platform SIM with open source mentality. That's we need to figure that out. But hey, what else? Yeah, we were supposed to have a guest on tonight who's going to talk about securing Teams voice, as well as talk about the vulnerability that has been talked about in regards to dropping hashes and credentials, GUIDs, and whatever else in plain text if you get access to a machine that's running Teams. Unfortunately, he's in California. He had a conflict. It would have been 5 o'clock, 3, 4, 5. It's 3 o'clock his time, so perfect time to be out there to have something blow up. You got to go address it with the customer.
Yeah.
But he hit me up on the other computers and already said that he would be on. He'd like to come on to the Reactor show. I'm sorry, the 3rd week in October, but we already have somebody 3rd week in October. That's Shock again, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll push him out. I get him squared away. So it looks like we're booked out for remainder of September, as well as almost all of October.
Yeah.
And then I have at least 3 partners who pinged me today. So they definitely want to come on. Big shout out to my friend Caleb Fritius. He's over at Blue Voyant. I trained his company
Ah,
years ago. So he wants to come on. Critical Start happened to be over here in the conversation. So they want to come on. And a
awesome.
couple of more are like, all right, so we may have a partner month. I think, hey, that might be a trend. Have a partner month in November.
I have a few others I think that would appreciate the opportunity as well. I've worked with both Blue Voyant and Critical Start, but there's a few others that are part of MISA, right?
I'd like to get Open Systems on / they used to be called Born in the Cloud. Knew the owner and creator of Born in the Cloud personally. I like to see how he's doing with acquisition. I'd like to get on the Scent, which is actually pretty good. And so I'm going through something where I'm putting together like a heat map and matrix of partners, their capabilities, their verified deployments and stuff like that. But I think, man, maybe you and I get together and if not November, half of November, half of December, because we're going to be a holiday routine, we just have a whole partner focus thing. Come on, and then we'll let, friend of the show close out. We'll like, because Red Canary is not going to allow them to come back on and not have the last word. That's not going to happen. They're going to
Yeah,
like,
I need a new T-shirt.
yeah, I need a new T-shirt too. So I did get a new T-shirt while I was in Redmond all last week. That was really cool with a new Ninja Cat, but I left it
Oh.
downstairs. So, I don't know if you have any topics today. This may be a little bit of a short reactor, but I
Well,
have something that I want to show.
yeah, I have a few things after you do yours.
So how do I go about being able to share? Do you make me
There's a little share button down at the bottom.
Oh, okay. I got it right there. So I'm gonna go share. Let me put the right thing up here. So this came up, and me loving share screen. Got it. Which screen that it wants me to show? I'm gonna show that one. Share. So you can see my screen. Let me know. Well, I can see it now, so I know I'm showing, right?
There
And
you go.
I got double pictures. So one of the things that's coming up, customers are looking at as they go through a zero trust evolution or initiative, is that the they're getting the ideal of controlling identity as maybe the cornerstone of it, right? I control that identity, and what I mean by that is control means secure to me. I'm going to control the identity, all aspects of it. So that's including, multi-factor access, your authentication mechanism, even in multi-factor. That tends to be something that you really got to look at now, especially with attacks using MFA exhaustion technique or spamming. And then conditional access. Yes, you may have gotten through the MFA process by virtue of a stolen device, uh, SMS hijacking, whatever. But conditional access comes in and says, yeah, you have the rights, but why are you doing this? You've never done this before, and specifically running applications that you never run before. And so what has come up lately is they want to, I've had 2 customer inquiries about talking about app governance as it relates to Defender for Cloud apps. And I go, oh, okay. Defender for Cloud apps, AKA Microsoft Cloud, Microsoft MCAS. I'm getting all my stuff mixed up. And so people are like, well, how do you turn it on? So when I go into my lab, I notice that, security posture for non-Microsoft applications is currently in public preview. This is a big deal because the Microsoft centric workloads are natively integrated by virtue of the backend API, whatever it may be. So it sees those things that are Microsoft related. But what about, and then there is a subset of applications that are have been worked with highly, the APIs exposed. But what about in-house applications? Customer says, well, I have this in-house, or I bought it from someone's not on your list. How do you do that? And so this is being communicated out. But one of the things you do is when you go into Discover and you look at discovered apps, how to be able to populate this stuff, and you'll notice that a majority of these Microsoft are already populated here, and this gives an indication of what's being used in the actual category of the industry that they're in, right? So I looked at this and said, all right, so tell me what this app governance is about. So app governance is just going into policies, right? And
Yeah.
being able to come in and control and alert and monitor non-Microsoft applications in a more granular level, also excluding the ones that have publicly exposed APIs that we can work on. So if you go here and you go to connected apps, you'll see that certain apps right out of the box are there. Most of them are Microsoft, right? But if you
Yeah.
want to add Box and Google Cloud, you can do all these things. I have GC connected. I haven't did anything with it in a minute, but it's still green. My AWS is going down. I need to figure out that. It is a crazy part about it. It
Ooh.
says, yeah, I don't have that. Those are synthetic transactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are not real people doing that, right? And
Yeah.
so this date shows the day how long I've been running it. It's still trying to enumerate last activity. But I want to get Eric Olick back on, who came in and talked about cloud app security, app governance, and things like that, to give a little bit more. So you can see that these two are updated. This one's still trying to do. It's still connected in green. I knew this one's going to bomb out. I tried to fix it in April, and evidently I got distracted. I haven't done it because these synthetic transactions were throwing me off. So before I go over to the app governance, if I click on that, you can see that this is just looking at the permissions assigned in the assumed roles in Azure. That's all
Those
it
are
is.
service accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, service accounts.
Yep.
So if I go to Cloud App Catalog, these are the things that they're trying to bring in to allow you to do non-Microsoft centric data governance. And so it's a deeper topic than we can probably cover in the show, but one of the biggest things you want to get around is that if you have application governance, you can often find out if someone's over provisioned for consent in your environment. Meaning, in layman's terms, this person can authorize the app use or everything from trials and consent to APIs and stuff in your environment. And so when you go to that, you look at, auth apps, you can see things like who's able to consent and the permission levels associated with someone saying, can you use Apple, Quantify, Samsung email, right? I'm in my lab, I'm surprised. I don't know who uses Samsung email. Canopy, Shift, My Files. So it gives you a great idea
That'd be an
on
Android
what
user, probably.
what you can do. So interesting one that how do you do it? Well, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps interacts with MDE. And so when you go in here and you configure things to monitor, alert, or block, MDE creates custom indicators. So, case in point, if I go to discovered apps, I go and I type in, let's say Carnival. How you spell Carnival?
Carnival, CARNI.
CRNI.
VAL.
Oh, maybe I have it going to Carnival. How about we try this? What's another app that let's just say TikTok, even though I don't use TikTok. Maybe it's in my house. Okay, TikTok, somebody's used it in my house. Last scene here is my wife. I'm blocking her. Right after this, she's going to be blocked. Told her not to use TikTok. So you can come inside of here and say, okay, TikTok has a risk score. Let's just take a look at breakdown of this. General score 8, a risk score 5. I won't get into the debate on why and how safe it is.
10.
But I think this is so overlooked in Defender for Cloud apps. The category of the app, social network, where it's headquartered is big and important, especially if you have data governance, get data sovereignty and how you operate, GDPR, a bunch of stuff, and a hosting company. And so when you go through, you can look at it that in TikTok, they don't do data classification. There are no augment, multi-factor authentication is not supported, IP address restriction. None of the regulatory frameworks in the United States are being covered. But data ownership, right to erasure, and all these other things, the only reason these exist is because they operate in the United States and in Europe. And so they do these things by virtue of self-reporting, but do they really? And so what happens is customers want to go, well, I want to limit this. I don't want to turn it off because it helps me build an understanding of what my company sponsored devices and or BYOD are what they're doing. So in
Mhm.
here, you can tag this as sanctioned, which lowers the inspection and blocking of it, meaning this has been trusted, let it ride, don't put any advanced analytics against this, which is a dangerous button to use unless you actually own the app or you have with great certainty that the app is operating in a manner as it was advertised. You can block it as unsanctioned. Now, this is a good one because you can block it with session control inside Defender for Cloud Apps. Or if you have an extended use case via a complementing technologies like Zscaler, Zscaler and Defender for Cloud Apps talk. So Defender for Cloud Apps can be the inspection mechanism, and Zscaler can be the enforcement mechanism. It
Oh,
understands the policies,
yeah.
so it would
So
change it.
without that though, what enforces it?
Well, there is no enforcement. This is nothing more than discovery of your shadow IT or application usage. There's you could now if you want to enforce it within Defender for Cloud Apps, it's a combination of conditional access and session control,
Gotcha.
and it'll block the session. Now it's a little deep on how it does it, but it basically breaks your authentication every time. You just never see it in the background,
Right.
right? And it's keep making you go back, and the app becomes useless. Now you can unsanction it, which blocks it. You can sanction it, right? So these are fully allow if you're thinking networking, allow all, deny all, or you can come in and you can create a tag because it understands tags and can comply, it can apply the controls that you have. So you can see add a conditional access app control, request a score update, edit the app details. So if I was going to put this as monitored, it tells you a warning message will displayed upon using accessing the monitor apps. This has been in preview forever, over a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
It never worked, ever. Smart Screen would not recognize this because either safe links or something was overriding this. It looks like it's working now. I've seen it in action working with Zscaler. Now, would it act natively inside of Azure /365 slash conditional access? I don't know. So what I like about this is that you can select a profile to include or exclude. So I can go in here and I can choose manage scope profiles. So I can basically create an exclusion group to say, yeah, we don't allow TikTok, but this group can. Okay. So if I click save, now that's being monitored. And so now when people go, it won't block them, but it will pop up if you set the custom banner. Supposedly, you set the custom banner so that it does. And you say, well, where's the custom banner? So you have to go into, now you got me, it's a dashboard settings. Hold on for a second. No. I have to go into settings, but, settings, there you go. Right here, you come down and you look at user monitoring. And so now you can give them a custom banner and you can name this in the header that pops up that says monitor application use detected. Warning you accessing a file transfer. You can play out telling with box, but you can just see and take that out and just say you are monitoring an application that's not authorized for use. Your activity monitored, compliance policy, so and so. So you have notified that person that they are using an unsanctioned or monitored app, which covers your butt in most instances, and you can do it, right? So I'm going to click save. So the next time my wife gets on one of the machines that goes to my wireless, she's going to get this if she used TikTok, right? And so that's one of the big things. With zero trust, app governance is a big thing because when you ask any customer, you know, how many applications, both fat clients and or SaaS application are you running, you'll never get the right answer. If you get the right answer, they meaning they're running some type of CASB solution and already were prepared for you, right? To be
Yeah.
able to get that. And so it works super deeply with Defender for Endpoint. So you need to make sure you turn this on. So without having this box checked, enforce app access, MDE is a controlling mechanism in conjunction with conditional access. If you do it that way, that will not allow that app to work. And when you do it this way, it creates a custom indicator. So if you block Google Drive, when you go down to your custom indicators, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe custom indicators or custom detections in MDE. You'll see that whole URL, and it will list all the possible URLs that you could use to do that app, whether you do it via web-based, client install, on your endpoint, whatever else. But you
Yeah.
have to have this. The bypass is when the person wants to go through, you can create a redirect URL for warrant users, and when they go to it, they get a grooved URL that's basically a overlay to where they're going, and you could say that person can only use the app for an hour at a time, and you can go that route, right?
So that's awesome. You could use that as parental controls at home for your kids. You only use that app for X amount of time.
Well, I wouldn't go so much in parental controls because it doesn't necessarily have a whitelist of sorts, but it does allow you. It's really made for the enterprise.
Yeah.
Um, recreational.
I use Sentinel now to track my kids. So.
Yeah, well, I don't have any kids to track. So, everything. So conditional access, app control, like default behavior, allow access, block access, right? When the system is down. So if Defender for Cloud Apps goes down because of an outage at Microsoft, it fails either open or fail block, right? And then, so if you also come down, the user monitor, we talked about that. What was the other one? Yeah. Being able to tie this in to on-premise identities as well as Azure Active Directory identity protection here, which also links to your secure score and your exposure or risk score per user, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's something that I'm going to put together a complete demo. I don't want to show it because so our listeners know that they know that MDI, Microsoft Defender for Identity, and MDCA, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, are two of my most favorite products within it. And then Sentinel's right there. But this is something that's really overlooked because a lot of people turn on this and they just leave it alone. And when they do come in here, they just like to look at what type of apps are being used, webmail, IT services, and such. You get a breakdown of actual ones. You can see in my lab what I've been using. Everything from Google to Bill.com, Yahoo. I don't remember ever doing anything with Yahoo. It must be passing something from one of my endpoints. And so risk level, total traffic up and down, IP addresses, discovered apps, right? So in e-commerce within my lab, these are the ones that are being used. Everything from Apple to Shopify, BitCartel. I was using that the other day. I don't ever remember going to Alibaba on the 16th. Maybe I was doing a search. I live at Costco. So there you go. Nike. Yeah, Nike was only because I was probably doing a brand comparison. I don't run any Nikes. I run in Saucony's. Big shout out to Saucony's. And so everything now, what they haven't fixed, and it may not be a bug, is the check marks are cumulative. So when you click on one, you don't just go to that. You turn it on and off what you want to inspect. I would like for a checkbox to be here so that you can see which ones I have selected. Like if I just go through, I click that. So you would think if I choose e-commerce and go to hosting services, it would switch it over between that. That has never changed over from the time of the acquisition, right? So you get all 11 plus 31 that it detected, and social network. So, be careful about what you click on and show what you've been looking at, right? Because I've been in some embarrassing situations where,
So here's the thing that just struck me. You're in the old or still existing Cloud App Security console. We recently announced that Cloud App Security is integrated in security.microsoft.com, but I didn't think until now to go look, but there is quite a difference in the full console versus what's available at security.microsoft.com.
It is, and that's across all the products. So the way you circumvent that, or not circumvent, but the way you address that. So if you go to security.microsoft.com, it won't multi-factor me because I'm already in. You'll see that they have stuff like, for assets.
If you go down to the bottom, there's Cloud Apps.
Yeah, you got Cloud Apps here. So if you go to Cloud Apps here,
but it's not everything.
It's not, and this is why. So app governance is something that they're exposing the what they believe the high profile stuff is. Hence, I started a conversation about app governance, start free trial. It is you have an E5 or A5 license, you turn it on. But if you want to get to the old one, to our viewers and listeners, hey, this is good for a, you know, aggregation of the different portals, but I'm used to the old port. I'm used to getting into the details and I know how to navigate it. You have to go to settings, and then you have to go into,
Cloud App Security is not in there.
Oh, I thought it was in here. Let me see.
It's not. That's what I was like, oh man.
Oh, it's not here yet.
Nope.
But you can see it takes you back to the old ones like MDI, right?
Yeah.
You see my domain controllers. And so it's wow, I could have swore it was in here.
That's what I thought. And I just saw that. I'm like, huh.
Security Center, we know what that is. Endpoints, email, identities. So device discoveries, no, right? So you see all the networks. Hey, but that's all I really wanted to share about that. More to come about it because Cloud App Security wasn't getting a lot of love at Microsoft. Now it seems like it's getting a lot of love. I think because they've changed the background.
There is also, let me find that. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll find it here in a second. There's and we can share this link. There is actually, where is that? The Defender for Cloud App product group is starting to plan their next roadmap. And there is let me grab this link. I'll pop it in here so Alexia can share it.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I like is like in the cloud discovery, don't underestimate devices. This is super helpful about understanding what your devices are doing. If you start to see a huge amount of upload, it should alert you, but if it doesn't, because there is a policy that looks at data infiltration from a machine that has not had atypical high uploads, you may want to take a look because that could be a precursor to ransomware. Copy everything off, then I ransomware you, especially when you can tie this to users in your environment, right? So yeah, definitely looking for a show. I'm gonna probably get one of the MCAS/MDCA individuals from Microsoft to come on so you get deeper into this. But you can notice that the data ingestion points could be two ways. You could do it Windows 10 endpoints where MDE is feeding all the telemetry from the endpoints, or you could do log ingestion by setting up a Docker container in Azure. Then basically a SIM of a sort, right? You point to it by creating a log collector and you'll be able to go do it. I used to do it years ago. I don't even think you can run it on premise anymore. They prefer that you run it in a Docker Linux instance in Azure or somebody. I did test it on being able to run it in another cloud, and it does work. I had to help Brodie with something, get some Palo Alto stuff in. So, but I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna let you talk, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. No, that was super interesting. You highlighted some things that I didn't know, but also I thought a little discrepancy in that console. That's interesting. I have to go back through myself and figure out what the differences are. So Alexia posted that link while you were talking about the Defender for Cloud Apps. The Defender for Cloud Apps team at Microsoft, they have a set of features that they're wanting to solidify for the roadmap for the next quarter. And literally, if you go to that link that's been supplied, and we'll include that in the show notes too for the audio listeners, you can actually go out there and vote on the features you think should come first, right? So that's pretty cool. And it's that time of year when a lot of our product groups are doing that. They're going to the customers and saying, hey, here's the things that other customers have asked us for. We need help prioritizing. So I would just suggest to anyone that wants to do that, it's actually a cool thing to be part of that decision making process. It's actually kind of cool to vote for something and actually see it show up, right? And make sure that it's prioritized. Because if you go out and look at our feedback mechanisms, there's lists, hundreds of items long. Customers are always asking for things. It's nice to make sure they prioritize to get some things in there. In fact, at Microsoft, we're in this week of our internal hackathon, and there's a lot of cool things coming out of that. In fact, I'm on one of the teams for something kind of cool. Hopefully, I'll be able to share that a little bit later. Some additional capability for Microsoft Sentinel. The things I actually really did want to kind of highlight tonight, and we can talk about a couple of these. I think probably, Ed, you probably have some ideas around a couple of these things. Microsoft Ignite is coming up, right? Next month. And don't shake your head. Microsoft Ignite is coming up next month. And in fact, let me grab that real quick. Ignite registration is open. This is a hybrid event, right? I'm posting that so Alexia can post that to everyone.
Yeah, to my viewers that saw me shaking my head, it's not because I don't believe it's important. It's because I'm mad I can't go.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of plays into what you talked about earlier. Ed is like traveling for business all over the place. That's awesome. In the role that he's in, a lot of Microsoft, we are restricted from travel budget, right? We can't do a lot of traveling. Even my team, I'm participating in Ignite, but I'm doing so remotely with a couple sessions, right? So we couldn't even get on site for that, but that's okay. It's a hybrid event. There's going to be a lot of remote attendance. There's going to be, I forget the actual number that's going to be in person, but it's in Redmond, and it's very near our conference center. They're in Redmond, if people know where that's located at. So the in-person stuff. So that's going to be pretty nice, pretty interesting. Should be a good event. I would suggest that anyone that attends remotely or in person, feedback. Don't hesitate to provide your feedback, whether you like it or not, so that we can improve, hopefully, for next time, which is absolutely seriously important. Speaking of the travel restrictions, I actually do have my next travel in November, going to Tech Mentor in Orlando, talking about Microsoft Sentinel. So I know folks sometimes are like, where are you going to be next or something like that. So
I haven't heard Tech Mentor in so long. Wow.
I was at Tech Mentor in Redmond, spoke, what was it? I think it's about a month and a half ago, something like that. Right. So this is their other event. This is a co-hosted event. It's Tech Mentor with SQL. There's a Visual Studio. There's a developer conference. It's co-located with like 4 or 5 different conferences, so it should be pretty good. Should be awesome. Probably going to do either a pre or post day workshop as well. Probably like a 2-day workshop, myself and Joey Snow. Be talking about zero trust and stuff like that. So it'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah. If I had opportunity to go, I would. I always like going to customer facing shows more than strictly Microsoft internal of such, like Ready, because the customers will tell you what's in the wild, as well as a lot of the MVPs go to Ignite.
Yeah,
and you get secret stuff, and I always win.
A lot of MVPs speak at Ignite, and there will be a lot of MVPs speaking at Ignite this year as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I just did 5 days in Redmond. I'm burned. that time difference. I could take a nap right now, and I've been home since the weekend. But no, good stuff. I don't. You know what? We never talked about Brodie and Franklin. Let's pivot. Where's Brodie and Franklin today? You know what? This is the first show.
Yeah,
it's the first show. It's just be me and you.
It's me and you every day. This is just the first time on the show.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I've been sort of ghost. I've been actually doing real work, and sitting down and trying to do some stuff and studying for something I think I want to try to achieve in the fall. So, good stuff, man.
Didn't Brodie say he's on an island somewhere?
Roland's always on an island.
Yeah, on an island by himself. And then Frank said, I have a meeting at 5. Go ahead and start without me. I'll be there later.
He meant when Franklin says later, what, 5:59? And he comes in. He's been busy too. I called him actually I talked to Frank last week because we did the podcast. I did it from Redmond. We had Michael Lloyd on to come in and talk about ESAM, security and compliance, and what it really means as it evolves, especially around how it relates to agency, commercial versus GCC. So he's going to come back on. He's new enrolled, GBB, super nice guy. Been in Microsoft 19 plus years, a little bit. He's deep. And he's one of the people that Franklin actually, really enjoyed his show because he can talk compliance from a data side and infrastructure side. That was the highlight of it. He wants to come back on and talk a little bit deeper. Like compliance is not just the data and identities. What about your infrastructure? Is your infrastructure compliant to transmit this stuff? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're encrypting it, you're doing this, but in certain industries that is not enough. Like think of financial, think of the SWIFT network, right? It would be catastrophic if someone was able to actually compromise the SWIFT network for interbank transmissions, right? And they're super locked down. So not only are you encapsulating it and encrypting it, you also put it over a very secure private, transmission medium. So I want to get him back on, give him a little while to get his feet up under him. He's new in role, but he definitely wants to come back on and talk.
That's awesome. Yeah, we also have two last things, I think. One, and I'm sticking this link in the chat for Elixia again as well. We have a LinkedIn page now, Microsoft Security Insights Show on LinkedIn, and there's the link. That's actually working out pretty well, where we make our announcements and our show replays and stuff like that. So, because I've been inundated today for some reason, our Microsoft Sentinel workshop internally that we deliver to customers, there's a community page on one of them, go other resources or whatever, and Microsoft Security Insights is one of the links, to go get more information and stuff like that. But the Microsoft SecurityInsights.com today is being blocked by Smart Screen in Microsoft Edge.
And I just went there, so let me share this one more time with our listeners and stuff. So don't be alarmed. Let me share my screen one more time here. Share screen. Do this. All right. Share. So when you can see that, let me know. Yep, there it is. So what is happening is when you go to the Microsoft Security Insights there, you notice you're not getting a certificate error. Our certificates are valid. We're hosted. Some reason this is flagging at Microsoft and Edge, right? And so if you wanted to go, you just go more information, and you can report this site doesn't contain phishing threats, which you and I talked about. If you click on this, I actually never done this before. You can report in and say, this is a good site. I think the website is safe. I'm the owner I did this piece. I'm the owner representative of this website. I can report on incorrect warning about it. Put your username, email address. So anytime this comes up, but I want to make sure that our listeners and viewers know our site has not been compromised. We're not redirecting you. We're not spamming you. We're not phishing you. We're not whatever. And if any of our listeners are seeing this or hearing this, don't just, let me go back one. Don't just click on continue to unsite site, not recommended. Take a little bit of time to go in and report the site is good, which will help us get off whatever bad list that we're on. But if you go to another browser, let's say your favorite browser, which is Vidali, maybe. Hold on for a second here. Let's go to Brave. So if I go to, well, which one was I in? Was I in Brave?
Netscape. Try that one.
Yeah, I got Netscape. I got OCD somewhere. All right, let me just grab one of these windows over here. How about that? And so this is in Brave Terminal. So if I go to the same site, Microsoft Security Insights, I'm good to go. Yeah. For some reason, Edge is flagging that, and so
it's the contact. They sent me an email a little bit ago. They're going to fix it, but if you click on the contact link on top, that's literally what they have dinged us for, is because we request contact information when people want to contact us. So it's kind of funny.
Okay.
It's a privacy thing, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's okay. I get it.
Well, we got capture in here to make sure,
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, the people can connect with us in any 1,000 number of ways these days. So that page is probably not necessary anymore. So
you know what I didn't try though? Let's try this. If I go here, private window, still does it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Last thing I have, because we're on Reactor, we usually highlight at least one doc or learn module. This time I'm not going to actually highlight a specific module, but instead supply a link talking about the new Microsoft rebranding. Everything that used to be docs.microsoft.com is now learn.microsoft.com. So even our product docs, our learn modules, everything is now being redirected to this new subdomain. The blog post talks about why this rebranding is important, which I absolutely believe, because a lot of our customers are looking for educational information, right? And our learn brand has really kind of bloomed. A lot of people utilize that for certifications, for learning, for the different certification paths and things like that. So makes a lot of sense.
Microsoft Learn is really up their chops.
Yeah.
I was never a big fan of trying to do learning, like going to each doc, doing the sample test and everything. But it is very well formatted. It flows. It flows so that you could go to module 8 and make sense of it, but it would still give you enough information to say, hey, you need to go back to module 7 and 6 because they build upon this for your learning. Now, if you already passed those two, each module can stand up on its own, right? And so that Microsoft Learn, for those who are not using it, it's the best free thing going. You really got to take advantage of it and use that to track your progress. Yeah, and then the reference links, like when you go through Learn, most of them have the ability to go to the left-hand side, and if there's a PDF associated with it, you can just download the entire PDF. So if you're offline, you can work, right? Just like docs.
Yeah.
But, good stuff. So Microsoft Learn, to everybody's out there, got to do Microsoft Learn. It's good stuff.
Yeah, Microsoft Learn, and the thing you said, it's free, right? Good friends of ours, good friends of the show, Yuri, Sarah, Mark Simos, they've written a book. I put the link in there that Alexia can share, but it's pre-order in February. It's the exam reference for SC100, but we have all that stuff on Learn, right? There are people absolutely that still absolutely desire a printed copy of something. And in fact, that Must Learn KQL book that is on Amazon, right? It's free. It's free from the GitHub repository, but that thing still sells well, like 3 or 4 months in. It's pretty amazing. People just really want a hard copy of something. So
I like paper. I like touching the book. I got a bookshelf over there. I go through. To me, it reminds me of my history. When you and I was coming up through the ranks, to have a book, sticky notes, highlight, reference, and it reminded me of the late nights when you just read. And you had to do, especially I came from a Cisco background. You'd be surprised how many Cisco Press books I still own.
Yeah.
Original Cisco Press books. I have the iOS 11.2 command line references. I kept one of them. Believe it or not, I sold the complete volume on eBay, and folks give me some good money for it. But I wanted to keep the original one in the shrink wrap.
Yeah.
I think the composite book, man, it brings back days.
Oh my goodness, those were boring. They were so boring. Holy crap.
Yeah. And when our guest comes back on to talk about Teams voice and everything, him and I were networking guys together. So we were, we were both going toward our CCIEs together, and we lived in Cisco Press in those iOS manuals, right?
Speaking of that Teams security thing, I have tried my best to copy and paste something into Teams that would be considered a password or a hash or whatever. I've tried literally everything. We can't do it in Microsoft.
No, because they have all the data governance and keywords and all that stuff turned on. You can't do it.
So I'm looking forward to him coming on to walk through how to set that up. Because
even if you try to get slick, what is social security number? 9 characters, 3, 6, 9, 10 characters, something like that. 2, 6, 0, 1, 9 characters. Let's say 9. Even if you try to put the first 3 on one line the next two on another line and 4, it still catches it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can recognize string data patterns or disjointed data patterns. And yeah, always been able to do that. Someone just make a comment in Discord.
Did they?
Can't remember. That's the hard part. As the show grows, we really need 4 people sometimes, right?
Yeah, we do. There's 100 things going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Discord over here, YouTube over here, SteamYard over here, all these things. Twitch is still a thing, even though my Twitch hasn't come up. Maybe I blocked it in MCAS. Never know. But hey, to our listeners, thank you once again for taking time out of your day in the middle of the week. I hope that this session has been informative. With that, I think we're good. You want to close the show out, Rod?
Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Just jumping here. Sorry. Just jumping here to remind everyone that if you have a few more seconds to give some feedback, I shared the link for a survey. So it's in the chat, it's on the screen. The event code's also on the screen and in the chat. And yeah, thank you both so much for today's session. And we hope to have you again very soon at the reactor.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Have
Looking forward to it.